This episode is presented by DistroKid. DistroKid is the easiest way for musicians to get their music into all the platforms like Amazon, Apple, Tidal, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, and more. You also get unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of their earnings. The DistroKid app is super easy to use, so check it out. Just go to distrokid.com/VIP/talk guitars to get 30% off. We'd like to thank our sponsor, iZotope. They have a killer selection of intuitively designed audio plugins and suites to help you with all your audio production needs, like voice, video, podcast, or full production recording sessions, and tons more. Check out the audio repair tool RX11, the mixer plugin Neutron 5, or the powerful Ozone 11 mastering suite. Go to iZotope.com and use the code FRET10 at checkout to save 10%. That's iZotope.com and use the code FRET10 at checkout to save 10%. Hey everybody, it's Chris and Rick Talk Guitars, and today we're talking about guitars undercover, meaning playing in a cover band or a tribute band and how you approach guitar. So to set the stage, I've been in cover bands. I mean, most people have throughout their musician life. I've been in cover bands certainly, and lately I'm in a U2 tribute band, I guess, which is a little different than a cover band because we only do one band, U2. And Chris is in, you've been in cover bands when you were younger, right? Where you played other people's stuff.
Yeah. Top 40, yeah.
And most recently, Chris is in a killer, actually, John Prine tribute. Would you call it a tribute band, I guess?
I would call it
just a cover band?
I'd call it the best fucking John Prine tribute band in Seattle right now.
South of, or
east
of
not,
Aurora?
I don't think it's a full-on tribute band, but it's not just a cover. It's just, people
That's
who
cool.
love his music, putting their own spin on it. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, so we want to talk about, how we approach, as guitar players, how do we approach cover songs or tribute, or a tribute band for that matter. So why don't you start, Chris, in terms of how you approach it? Yeah, because I'm really interested to hear your take on it, because we haven't talked about this in depth, really, about how we kind of, I think we touched on it a little bit here and there, but I'd really love to hear how you kind of approach it from your standpoint.
Well, let's go back a few years. I'm going to give a little history on this thing.
Wow, okay.
Well, I started out, I think like maybe 90% of all people, maybe even more, start out as playing cover songs, because what the fuck else are you going to play? Yeah. There are people who I know that get a guitar and that to like make songs, and that's all they do, and that's great. I can't imagine doing that, but for a lot of us, we start out by playing songs. And as far as covering songs, I started with my record collection, playing songs that I love for my record collection. Just mostly hard rock songs, and got into a band as soon as I could find people that would do that with me. Mm-hmm. And so I was covering all those songs. It would have been like, Aerosmith, AC/DC, Ted Nugent, blah, blah, anything from that, that era of like hard rock and rock and roll. And my approach to it back then was you just tried to get as true to it as you could, but you were still learning. So, you just kind of like winged it, tried to stay true to that, the artist. And then from that, it kind of graduated into a kind of a top 40 flavored, we kept some of the hard rock stuff, but we brought in, the music of the day, the pop music of the day. Yeah. So we could play bars and get paid for it. And that paid off pretty well. We bought, an entire really nice PA system, and we all had money in our pockets for, a whole summer and maybe longer. That's so, cool. And that again was, the approach to that was much different than my approach now, because that was like, you got to get as close. People go to these bars and they're expecting to hear these songs. If they're going to hear Jump by Van Halen, they expect to hear, those sounds with that keyboard and all that other shit. So, it was still aiming for, being true to the sounds. And we had 4 or 5 people in the band. Everybody picked songs they wanted to do and learn songs. So that was cool. I mean, I think it was a good experience. But, back then it was like I shot for as close to playing the songs as possible, as that my capabilities would let me. I never like I wasn't a virtuoso by any means back then. I was still learning, so it was kind of like when I think about how I played some of those songs now, I was like, yeah, that wasn't very close, but the spirit was there.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, that was a cover band for me. Doing people's songs was just trying to take the record, learn the song, and then present it as well as you can with the skills that you have. And then for me, very early on, around that time, like shortly after that time, I should say, that I really felt this deep need in me to write my own songs. I just really, really wanted to. And I started writing really shitty songs. And I found some other people and we all wrote shitty songs and played them together. And, just kept knocking away at it to, get to the point of where, we would have our own songs, a band that primarily plays their own songs. Stepping away from the cover thing. But that's when another, cover situation poked its head out. We still love to do cover songs. The occasional cover song in a set of originals is always great. But it would be a different spin. We would be looking to take a song that may be uncharacteristic for, you would think why is this band playing this song? They're not that kind of a band. And putting our own spin on it and presenting it like that. And that came from the idea for that came from back in the probably would be the mid 80s. Bands like the Replacements would do like cover songs that were kind of like, they seemed kind of ironic, like, oh, look, they're doing Black Diamond by Kiss.
Right.
But, realistically, I'm sure that they all love that song, because it was a great song. So it's like, here is this really cool, like college radio, critical darling band, and they're doing a Kiss song. That's super cool. So we did that kind of thing where we'd take songs that unexpected, like we did like a Helen Reddy song or something like that,
awesome.
and just put our twist on it. So that was, that took it to another level. And there were a lot of people doing that back then. I mean, I remember seeing Soul Asylum, another Minneapolis band, and they had really cool covers that they do, like cool funk covers and stuff like that. So cover songs were a big part of growing your craft as a songwriter too, because from doing that, you learn to take a song and kind of look at it in a way like, what is the essence of this song? Okay. This is I love this song. I love this song because this is like a band I never listened to, but this song is a good song. I like this about it. Mm-hmm. How do I take what I like about it and fit it in the context of my music? Like, what we're playing in this band situation. Yeah. And I thought that was really, really cool and made you look at songs a different way. So approach to cover songs then was more like, not necessarily going for as close as possible approximation, but just kind of put your own spin on it. Try to take the song to another place. Definitely, not looking to make, this is better than that, but just take it somewhere that fits either the vibe of the band or just something that you're looking for. And I think that's a really good skill to be able to take a song, look at its essence, kind of shake it out and make something of your own. And I think there's many, many good bands that have been doing that since they've been making rock and roll. And, the whole blues music is based on that anyway. But so basically I just gave a really winded version of, how I kind of how I came about, like working my way through covers from straight top 40 stuff all the way up till, now we can play covers whenever we can. We'll have like one or two in the Rip Broker sets occasionally. And, and then the whole tribute thing was where it's all covers. So I'm going to take a break and let you talk about your cover.
So, well, I have questions for you too, but like when you were younger and you were trying to capture, the song as it was, because like you said, there's an expectation with the audience. Hey, I want to hear that song and I want to hear it like I know it from the record. Did you feel pressure to be a note for note interpreter of those songs? Or did you still feel like you had, at that particular time when you were in that mode, right? Or did you still feel like you had freedom to kind of make it your own to some degree or...
I felt that's a good question. I felt like I had freedom to make it my own because I didn't have the capability to make it like that. For an example, I mentioned the song "Jump" by Van Halen. I actually played that when it was on the radio.
That's so cool.
We had it. The other guitar player went out and got a Juno keyboard and it's like had that sound programmed.
The stock sound, right? Yeah, it's probably the first button, right?
The first bank, I think it was number 3. But so we did that song, and it's like, and there's that fucking crazy solo, right? Where the song stops.
Totally.
Like, "Jump" is like a song wrapped around a solo that Eddie Van Halen had. Said, I need to do something with this thing, so I'll wrap a song around it. So I wish I swear to God, I wish I had like a recording of that because I
Oh,
have no idea what I did.
because I was
But I
going to
know
ask you, like, what did you do? Did you just wing it, or did
I
you?
totally winged it. I couldn't. Not only could I not do the finger tap thing,
Yeah.
I had absolutely no interest in it. It was something that I maybe took 5 minutes and went. I'm like, this is dumb for me. I just don't. It's not. I loved it when he did it, but so
Yeah.
whatever I did didn't involve that. So it must have been pretty fucking interesting, and nobody threw shit at me.
God, I would
But the
have.
thing that's interesting about that at that time period, this was in a town called Saginaw, Michigan.
Uh huh.
And there was a number of like, just shitty little bars around town that, all these cover bands would play.
Uh
And
huh.
what we would do is we'd be at some bar and you play the whole week. And, during that time, you'll be there and you'd be doing your version of Jump and maybe the Cars and whatever the hell else is on the Billy Idol or whatever.
Yeah.
And then some night you had off, you would go to one of the other bars or maybe the same bar where another band was playing. And you just say, oh, shit, let's see how he's doing that song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. For sure.
every time I watched a band do Jump, they always did it way better than me because they would usually do the tap and I don't know what I did. It like, it fit whatever it was, but yeah, I don't know.
I wish I could hear it too, man.
Right.
That's so
It was
awesome.
probably like one of those shreds videos, like
Right. Right.
So, but no,
Oh my God.
but yeah, there was times when I got pretty close, or I would try if I
Yeah.
could do it note for note back then. I would do it, and I would like feel really good about it. But
Yeah, and so for me, I went through those phases too. But when I was young, I felt obligated to learn things note for note. But for me, like as we know, guitarists have different styles and different approaches to guitar, and sometimes trying to capture that yourself, it's not impossible, but it's difficult, right? Especially like the solo that comes to my mind is like the solo Michael Schenker did in Rock Bottom. That long, it's a great solo. And I did learn that note for note at one time, but I felt like when I played it, I was too focused on playing it note for note rather than executing it in a way that seemed just genuine and like, you know what I mean? Like delivering it just confidently and just fucking like, here it is, And then also I did the same thing with like Hendrix. Like I would learn his shit note for note as much as I could from the record. Because at the time, yeah, there was no internet or anything. I would just put the record on and go, what the fuck is he doing? Is he bending that note? Is he doing that? So like, for instance, All Along the Watchtower, I learned that solo note for note as I think as close as I can humanly get to it. But I guess what I'm saying is what I came to realize is that what I want to do with these songs is, and then also, I guess, yeah, I won't jump ahead, but, and then in the 80s, I was in an original slash, no, it was an original band, but we did some covers. We did Psycho Killer by Talking Heads, but
nice.
my friend John had this version. I don't even know who did it, but it was called Psycho Chicken. So it was a takeoff but the instrumentation was so cool. So what we did is we kind of combined those two versions. And our version was kind of like this hyped up kind of pop rock, more energized version of that song, which I always dug.
Nice.
Did. Yeah. And I was always inspired by covers that were a departure or that somebody made their own. I mean, All Along the Watchtower is a great example, right? Dylan said, "Oh, that's his song now." That's how much. And there are tons of covers like that where somebody just did this amazing cover of this song and it becomes their song essentially. And so that inspired me even when I was younger. But sometimes I did feel pressure, and it depended on the song. If there was like a signature solo that kind of was really identified with that song, I would feel obligated to learn it note for note.
Right.
And so what I would do is maybe I'd learn some of it note for note, and then some of it I'd do myself. Like this is me.
That's exactly what I did with. You mentioned Michael Schenker. We did Shoot Shoot back in the day, that song Shoot Shoot. And that song starts out with that classic Schenker, like really fast, flighty, but groovy kind of like thing where he's just noodling. And then he goes up and he does this really melodic thing. Yeah. So for the part that I couldn't do where he's got that really Michael Schenker groove thing that he's got going on, I just did my whole flailing kind of like, fast stuff that I could do. But then when I hit the melodic stuff, I played that. So that gave you enough of the same vibe. It's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
To get enough of the same vibe. So you're not just going needly, you are taking some elements in it. Because you're right. There's some things that you need to, if they're not there, you might as well not play the song.
When I was younger too, I just felt sometimes it was just okay to do that blues scale wankery. But the more I, as I aged and stuff, I'm like, that's such a cop out. And so what I started to do is not like write solos or anything, but when I was trying to improv, I was trying to do something that was thoughtful, right? Whether I'm trying to create some melody line that is cool on the spot, or just something that was more creative and interesting than just, copying out, right? And going, oh, look at me, I can trill for, or whatever, or just look at me, right? Because serving the song again, it's like I wanted to serve the song rather than just go, okay, well, so yeah, but so I think it's cool. I think there's a lot of parallels between the way you and I approached the guitar with cover songs, or tribute songs for that matter, through different parts of our lives. But fast forward to now, where I am playing the edge in a U2 tribute band. The thing I do in this band is I listen to a lot of the live stuff that U2 did, because a lot of the recordings there's so much going on, and it's crazy how much, like for instance, Where Streets Have No Name, there's like he plays it totally. I mean, there's stuff going on the record that I can't even really fathom guitar wise. Right. And it's probably tons of different guitar tracks.
45 tracks.
Yeah, exactly. So I just watch a lot of live stuff. And so for me, my approach for this band is a lot of live versions are my inspiration. And then I want to deliver the music as a band. I want us to deliver the music itself, not necessarily note for note at all or anything, but just in a way, in an energy way, and in a musical way that seems similar to the way that band is presenting themselves, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yeah,
it does.
And so that, because I think that if you do that, then you stand a better chance of moving people rather than trying to be this note for note perfect band that's focused on that. Because I've seen bands like that too, where they try to be note for note, and to me, it seems like they're distracted rather than just fucking coming out and saying we're going to deliver this stuff to try to get some reaction from you guys. And so that's what drives me, whether it's a cover tune or a tribute thing, is I just want to convey some kind of energy that is capturing the spirit. Like you said, the spirit of this thing. What is that? There's different ways to capture it and deliver it without being note for note.
Or the same key or the same tempo or something like that. That's the thing. It's like, taking a song and holding it up to the light and finding a different angle. So maybe it is like you're doing a completely different tempo. You're doing a different style, something like that. But as long as it works, if you can make something out of that, that's compelling. I mean, that's really cool too. That's kind of where I've changed over the years, from, trying to get as close as possible to trying to find this song. Can I make this song work? Will it work for me? Because it doesn't always work for me. That was one thing. A great experience for me was when I played in the band Evangeline with a woman singer. I had a woman singer who had a really great voice. And then we had my scratchy, pitchy, talky voice. And some of the songs that I would write would not work for her. She had an amazing voice, but very often you cannot just put a capo on something to fit your voice and then sing the same song.
No,
it doesn't work. A lot of times it's just like there's certain songs that need to be in a certain key sometimes, or you have to find, if it's the key that's comfortable for your voice, you may have to find a different tempo or just a way of delivering it or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's challenging, and it's actually really fun to try to do that. So a lot of times I'd have this song for our singer to sing, and we'd be working on it, putting it in different keys, and it just never comes up with it. So I end up singing it, and the song works, and that's the way. I mean, the song will tell you. I mean, when you start playing around with it, but there are so many cover songs that are such a departure from the originals. Comes to mind is the really like slow, druggy version of Can't Explain on Bowie's Pinups. He's doing that completely different. It doesn't, it's not the hyper Who version, but you can tell when you listen to it, he fucking loves this song. You know what I mean? You can just tell. And I'm sure there's many, many examples like that, but it's just funny how as you grow as a musician, you kind of get away from this whole, like, I got to get the song. I got to nail this. But still, there's some times where it's like, I have to figure the solo out, and I will, and I have to practice it and everything else. And it's very satisfying when you get it. The thing that I hate is just kind of being like, I can't do this thing, so I'm just going to do blah, 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 blah. So, I try to stay away from that.
Well, and like you're saying, especially with songs where a solo is kind of a melody line and it's indelible. One of them that comes to mind is Just What I Needed by the Cars. That solo that Elliot Easton does on there is, you can't do that song without doing that solo. If you
He's got a
do,
lot
then
of songs like
you're
that.
just copying out. Yeah, the Cars is a great example because his solos are so great. They're so lyrical and melodic, and they're little pieces of music that really make those songs so cool. So yeah, and I feel the same way. And so when I see bands that do that, it just bums me out. It's like, dude, if you're gonna do that, then you better come up with something that's pretty fucking cool.
Right.
That's gonna move somebody. Otherwise, just do what Ellie Deason did, and you'll be fine. But to
Yeah.
your point too about like total departures, I mean, those are my favorite cover songs actually. There's this band called Byland. It's in Seattle, and she does a version of Lithium by Nirvana that is just insane. It's the you got to
Cool.
listen. I'll send it to you.
All right.
It's beautiful, and when you hear it first, you kind of what I love about versions like that are you can hear the song and they're playing it, and you're going, "What is this?" But part of your brain is going, I recognize this pattern. It's just
All right.
presented in such a different way that it's taking me some time to, oh, and then once you realize what it is and you dig it, it's really cool because it's like it's like coming across a completely different song, and falling in love with it. But yeah, that version of Lithium that she does is insane. It's so cool. But and I can't think of others off the top of my head, but I know there's other totally departure versions of songs that I just love.
It's
It's
like what is it? Linda Ronstadt's "Tumbling Dice." I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
"Tumbling
yeah,
Dice" is a
yeah.
very
That's great.
ballsy song to take on because I love that song
Totally.
so much. But they kind of ignored. They got the gist of the song and they went their own way with it, and it's brilliant. I love that version of that song.
Like I was saying before, if there are signature things in a song, and you're a cover band. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's no set rules, but I'm just saying for me, if I'm in the audience and I see any band member, I want to see you. I just want to see a thoughtful approach to the stuff, because there's so many. Because I've fallen victim to the wankery and copying out and phoning it in, and
The common rock. That's what
yeah,
somebody called that. It's
exactly.
like I heard a lot of common rock in that.
And we've all done it, but man, but then if you come to the realization as a musician yourself, I think it's cool that you're like, I can't do that. Why would I? Somebody's out there, they paid, it's not like they paid a bunch, but they came to see this live show, and it's like, I got to do something that's, because that's what I try to do too, is even if I reach some person in the audience that says, God, he did, that was kind of cool what he did, like he thought about it a little bit and he came up with something that was kind of cool. That kind of jazzes me, and especially when I see it too. And if I'm in the audience and I see somebody that thought about it or just in the moment, even like came up with something that is pretty damn cool, it's like that impresses me and that makes me happy, and it's like, that's what music's about, or these cool surprises that move. But the bottom line is you want to move people, you want them to feel something when you're up there playing. And if you're just doing the little wanky wanky, then
That's the one thing that in my progression of playing other people's music that is just to me has gotten kind of richer. It's just gone from that whole like I'm playing these songs, especially in the top 40. I played a lot of songs I didn't like. You had to play because the people want to hear. You wanted to get paid, and people wanted to hear it. And now when you cover a song because you absolutely love it or you found something in it that you thought would be really cool to present a certain way, it's way more rewarding. And it's like I said about thinking about keys and what makes a song. Why doesn't this song work in this key? What's going on? It makes you a better musician. I mean, that's what a producer does a lot of times.
yes,
And
yes.
finding the thing to unlock it that, it's been rewarding. Another thing that is new for me, just like last year, I believe that I've always wanted to do and is really rewarding is doing an entire record from the first song to the
Yeah.
last song. We did like the John Prine thing, did one record one year and then another record this year. And again, we didn't like stick note for note. We did our own thing with it, but it was, I love playing that like we're playing a record. And there are a lot of people there that because I've gone to those where people have played those, and it's really kind of fulfilling to sit there and like it's like I'm listening to this record, but it's somebody else's take on it. So that was really cool to do. Have you ever done that with the U2 thing?
No, but we thought about it, and we are actually thinking about it, about doing one of the records, the whole thing, which I think would be fun. And that
Yeah.
may be one of the cool things that we do this year to try to do that. But yeah, we've talked about that because I do think it's a cool concept. And to that point, John, the guy that sings in the U2 band, he does. I told you this. He does a thing with another group of guys that does the Montrose album, the whole album,
The first one?
the first one.
Oh man.
And it's freaking cool, dude. It's
Right.
so yeah, it does have an impact. It's like It's fun. It's fun. And when I saw you guys, I think you guys did the album thing at the Tractor.
Yeah, when you
Yeah.
came out last
Yeah.
time, yeah.
That was super cool. Yeah. I think it's a great idea too. And also it's just another way as musicians to think of different ways to present the music that you've been playing a lot in a fresh way, right? It's
Yeah.
like, why don't we just do an album? Oh, cool. That's cool. That'll light a fire under our ass. Like you were saying, now I got to learn all these fucking songs, you
Yeah,
know?
it was hard.
Yeah.
But the other thing a good example of like sometimes when you might want to lean more on like getting note for note is I've always wanted to do a Thin Lizzy thing. You know what I
Oh
mean?
man.
Maybe do a
Yeah.
record or something like that. And that's one where you'd really have to play the solos. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd have to have two people playing the
Well,
solos.
especially the double leads. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be super cool. And that would be I've always wanted to do that. That would be the one band that I really would want to do, and that would be really fun. The other one would be like it would be great to find enough people to do like a Skinner thing, right?
Oh
Where you
my
have
God,
three
that'd be-
guitar players, but they're all like fitting in like that. No. And the other thing we should talk about for a little bit, because I went through a huge process as part of my covering bands, is like gear wise. You know what I mean? So,
Yes.
my views on that have changed drastically. But back when I was first starting out, when I was mentioning like playing my records, that was my cover band. Everything was a cover because I was just playing songs I liked from my record collection. That was just whatever you could throw together for gear, right? And then when we started getting into the top 40 thing and we started making money, started putting money back into it. So it's like, oh, I got to get an amp that can play this wide array of songs, a whole bunch of different songs. And what was really popular back then was some sort of like 212 situation, like combo amp. It was like the Twin was really popular, but also that Marshall, I don't know if it was a JCM 800 thing or something. It was like 212. It was a heavy as fuck.
Oh yeah, the combo. Yeah.
Yeah, 212. I really wanted something like that, but instead of getting like a Twin or a Marshall, I got the stupid solid state Yamaha thing. And it was like, it just taught me something back then because I'm playing all these different songs that need all these different sounds. And I've got like one guitar. It's like, so I'm going to lean on the amp to get these different sounds. And so I had like 150 shitty sounds. And what I traded for that was one amazing sound that I could have done all that shit with better. So I learned pretty early on is, don't look for that stuff, a lot of that stuff in the gear. But it's funny because just like with the note to note about approach to music, there's some things there's exceptions to those rules. Some things just really, playing Sweet Home Alabama on a Strat in the quack position is pretty satisfying. That's kind of like, that kind of demands that, or something like, what else would there be, like Richard Thompson, or who's that other dude? The Sultans of Swing guy. That stuff kind of calls, for a Stratocaster, but you don't have to. And we all got sucked into it. It was like the industrial musical complex got us all sucked into the fact that you need to have all this shit so you can be a successful cover band, so you can play 1,000 different things with 1,000 different settings. And that stuff never worked that way. A good example of that, to think about that, because it's so easy to think, well, I need a Stratocaster. It has 3 pickups. It's got a bunch of different sounds. I need this amp because it's got 400 different modeling things and all this other stuff, because I'm doing a wide array of songs. But that is like an approach that just sort of stunts your growth as a guitar player, because that's where you're looking for the essence of music and songs, and that's not where it is. Bill Kirchen of Commander Cody and the something Airmen band, Hot Rod Lincoln, that song, he does in the middle of that song, he does a medley of all these different guitar players, everyone from like Roy Nichols and Buck Owens to Johnny Cash, Muddy Waters, and like rock people. He plays a Telecaster and one amplifier, and he nails all those people's essence in that thing.
That's so cool.
And that's where it comes from. You know what I mean? So instead of me like dicking around, like, I don't have a flanger, I can't do this Van Halen song. That's not where the essence is. The essence is in what they're playing. Yes. But again, like I said, there are exceptions to that rule. At one time I thought that, if a song requires a piece of gear to deliver the song, then it's a shitty song. Yeah. But that's not true. That's not true. You're in a band, U2. Try to do some of that U2 stuff without a delay. You can't. And that's not a shitty song. You know what I mean? There are exceptions to that. There's some things that just need it. But even thinking about that stuff is really interesting, and actually makes you develop as a guitar player. Like, what do I need to capture this essence? It really calls for his quacky Stratocaster. I don't have one. So what else is he doing? You know what I mean? And, if it's Ed King, he's got this really cool delivery that he does, like his syncopated, like rhythm style. So you could do that and get it. Yeah. So I've always been a fan of someone who does a song that has a really like signature piece of gear or instrument or something like that, and they don't have that, and they deliver the song either as good or better.
Yes.
And that's always something to shoot for.
And that, I think that ties into what we were talking about earlier about spirit, about delivering the spirit of the song, or just delivering it in a way that's compelling, rather than focusing on, this song usually has a whatever, and kind of making it your own too. Again, I think is
he had 12 AT7 in the preamp, not a 12 AX7. But I will say that there's I'm not shitting on that at all, because there's a lot of fun in that. I have like one person I know, a friend of mine who was in our rehearsal space, that's really into Bob Mould from Husker Du, and he went out, got the Ibanez V, you know what I mean, the Japanese Ibanez V, and he got Bob Mould played a rack mount DBX 166 or something like that from the 80s. Hilarious. He got all of that stuff and put it together, and I think that's super cool and nerdy and fun, you know what I mean? But in the end, I bet even if you asked him, I bet he didn't find Bob in that stuff, but he found it in what he was actually playing, which it's cool. But then again, that's really fun to do. I mean, the thing for me in the John Prine thing was I found a new guitar hero that I knew of, but never really knew how much of a hero he was in Reggie Young. You know what I mean? I've heard all this shit, and like, I'm this guitar player. I can't do the finger thing like he does, but the way that he uses all these sixths and this his approach to the guitar is very much like I was back when I was trying to, fake country. He's way beyond me, but at the same time, I mean, that was so cool. Like, I can understand what he's doing here. You know what I mean? Because that's my approach that I would do to that. So I used a lot of that in that thing. It's those six, like Son of a Preacher Man, that beginning where he does those slides, the six slides, and then the harmonics. That's just so tasty.
Ultimately, it's in the player and how you deliver this stuff. But when I first started in the U2 band, all I had was my DD2. That was all I had. And I was just like winging it per song, and it still sounded really cool actually, but it wasn't. But then I said, well, I don't want to have to do this between every song, because we have 3 hours worth of U2, and I don't want to reprogram my thing. So then I bought the Boss DD or 550 or whatever, where you can program all kinds of shit in there. It's super useful, and it took me forever to program all these delays in there and stuff. And and again, this speaks to like not the note for note, but he uses like double delays sometimes, triple delays. I don't do that. I just approximate a delay that captures the essence of that song, right? And so that's what I try to do. And then also like we're talking about too, I think different play. I mean, the thing about the Edge is the echo is a part of his guitar sound. I mean, he's cultivated this sound that is his, and it's based on, and it's what's cool about it that I think he just gets so kind of overlooked or marginalized, but a lot of his delays are percussive or rhythmic, right?
They are, so totally. Yeah.
So there's it's not just sonically and melodically. There's this rhythmic thing going on, this interplay that he's got with the delays and the rest of the band that is pretty damn cool. And that's what I realized as I'm going down the rabbit hole of U2 and their music and all that stuff, is just, again, learning how I can convey this stuff in our 4-piece thing in a live situation the best way we can to deliver this stuff in a way that's compelling, and I do. I mean, I just by nature, I kind of want to know how somebody plays something, and so I've gone down the rabbit hole for sure on all these songs. But some of them, like, we do songs that they don't really do live, like Red Hill Mining Town or Homecoming. And so there are a couple live versions that we can draw from, but even the live version of Red Hill Mining Town, we do pretty differently from U2, the way they do it live. But it still delivers, and we get a reaction from the crowd. And it's cool, and we love playing it too, because the version we came up with is, I think anyway, is cool, and it's compelling, and it, people know what song it is, but it's definitely not like the record, and it's definitely not like some of the live stuff they'd done, but people know what it is and they like it.
I think one of the most satisfying things in the John Prine band for me is that I have so much like leeway for instruments to like draw parts from. I play like a lot of guitar, like. There's a lot of like signature guitar on some of these songs, but it's not through everything. I mean, there's not usually electric rhythm guitar on everything all the way through. I'll take like maybe a fiddle part and play that, and then put like a piano part or a pedal steel part and just make something out of that. And there's point where you're like, well, I don't, this is like a song. It's kind of sacrilege to do this, but you just work it around and pretty soon it's just, you just realize that, this is actually paying pretty good tribute to this person. So,
Exactly.
I feel good about it. And one thing cool about that too is that we've been doing this for a long time now, and it's
Yeah.
taken me a long time to get all these parts down. But I mean, just like the last couple of shows, I realized it's like, man, this band is getting good. This is cool. There's like a couple of songs that are really difficult, fast, and like really, there's a lot of people playing stuff at the same time, and they got to get together, or it's going to really kind of sound like a mess. And it's sounding really good. It's like, that's cool. And that's just what happens if you stick with something a long time, I guess. I mean, I think I must be approaching like 8 or 9 years of doing this in that band. But
I think you do honor the music as long as you're thoughtful about your approach to what you're trying to do. And I think the artists themselves appreciate hearing different versions of their songs and how people approach them and stuff. And
the Birds, I mean, hello.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Dylan, like they actually influenced Dylan. I mean, they lit a fire under his ass, and they
Yeah.
just really saw something and kind of made something their own.
Yeah, it's a great example. Well, some people are introduced to a song through the cover,
Right.
and they don't realize that, oh, that's not or that's not their song. It is a cover of this song. And I love that too. I love being introduced to a song and then doing the reverse engineering and going back to the original version, and but you were talking about gear, yeah, too. I kind of felt visually and kind of sonically, I felt compelled to get the Explorer and the Strat for the U2 thing, because those are his two main guitars that people know him for. And so, and like you said, it was fun because I'd never played an Explorer before. I just had never owned one. And I bought a later, it's not a special one. Yeah, they're great guitars, man. It's like a huge hunk of mahogany. They got that huge hockey headstock. It's fun to play. It's a damn fun guitar to play. And, I play that Antigua Strat for the Strat stuff. And I do have a Vox. But like you say, I mean, somebody could probably just get pretty fucking close with a Fender amp and some other gear. But part of the fun is visually representing that band too, to some degree.
Yeah, that's super important for a lot of people. A lot of these tribute bands, you're looking like, oh, they went all out. I see that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I mean, getting caught up in that can be not really a good thing to look beyond it, because face it, I mean, if you brought a deluxe or whatever amp you have and left the box at home, it's not what you wouldn't have any worse of a show. I mean, it's all the hard work that you did working, making the sounds with your guitar. Exactly. I mean, I have like through the 70s, John Prine himself had this big headstock, black Stratocaster, 70s Stratocaster, and I have one here, but I just choose to play the ES345. And that's funny because Reggie Young, he primarily played a Telecaster. And if I was really going to be true to this, I would probably have to play a Telecaster. And I think I did earlier, but he also had a 345, which is kind of cool. So yeah, but I just play that for everything. There was kind of like back in the 90s and early 2000s, in my dickish, young, cocky way, it wasn't really me, but I knew other people around me were like really down on cover bands. They'd say things like, friends don't let friends play in cover bands. It's like, like there's something less noble than having your own crappy original.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all music, and I played in Holiday Inns, you know what I mean? In the 80s, in the early 80s, we didn't do Feelings or anything like that, but we did, we did a lot of stuff that I didn't really like or care for. Yeah. I didn't even make it a year doing that because it was pretty quickly not much fun in it anymore after a while.
Yeah.
But a tribute band is something different.
Well, no, I remember that. I remember what you're talking about distinctly. And I think there are still circles that kind of frown on it or think it's kind of bullshit. But my take is like, if you're a musician and you're not necessarily going to be a huge star or write your own music.
Well, I am.
Why not play music if you enjoy it and you like playing for people? Go play the shit. Like for me, I never really was in a true top 40 band. We were in cover bands, but we always played covers we liked.
Yeah.
And that was our downfall because we liked, deeper cuts or cuts that weren't necessarily, we'd play some popular stuff of the time, but it was very, very much curated by us. And so as a result, we weren't nearly as popular as some cover band that did every fucking top 40 hit of the time, right? because that was our snobby attitude was like, fuck that, that's a total sellout. We're gonna do these deep cuts that nobody's heard, and nobody's gonna come to our show.
Shoot ourselves.
So it's all just this silly, rationalization of what you think selling out is, or doing the right thing as a musician. But
my first cover band, I just thought of this while you were talking about this. Is pretty funny. This is how much of a hillbilly town I lived in like 1980, 81, 82.
Oh man,
I found enough people in this hillbilly town to put a little band together. It was a 3-piece: drummer, bass player, me on guitar. And being such a small town, we could play anywhere. Everybody was like, there was no other band. So
you're a band?
Like everybody, it's like, oh shoot, these guys, we were like stars in this little hillbilly town.
That's awesome.
So we got to play everywhere. And so we ended up one summer playing a wedding reception, like in downtown, this little downtown thing. And we're doing like Cat Scratch Fever and shit. and the guy that was with us running our sound, quotation marks, is like, he got in trouble because he was barefoot. It was in the summer. He didn't have a shirt on. He's barefoot at a fucking wedding reception.
That's so
like
good.
We were all drunk. That's and
fucking awesome.
We played, whatever. We'd play like wedding receptions. What are those things when you graduate? Graduation parties.
Yeah, there you go.
So and then we got into the bars. And when we first got into the bars, there were these little podunk bars in the middle of the woods, and they didn't care. I mean, you didn't have to play that stuff. So we were playing like UFO and all this other stuff, and we got free beer. And that was the funnest. I mean, I don't know why I went from that to playing Top 40, because that was the absolute funnest of playing that stuff. And there was another bar down the street from us where we had our own night for a while, where it was like kind of like a teen dance we played, but we could drink because we were older. And so those were always packed. Man, being a small fish or a big fish in a tiny little pond can be pretty rewarding. It would have been that time. When was Jump? That was from 1984, that record, right? So it must have been around 1984. So that was when I was in the shit then. That was, so what went on the radio? I mean, we did like Overkill by Men at Work.
Oh, dude.
What was the Cars had some, no, that was Talking in Your Sleep, that the Romantics, Talking in Your Sleep.
Yeah.
We did Billy Idol, White Wedding, all this stuff. And then, but we do like, I sang like 2 songs. I sang Rebel Rebel by David Bowie. And then I sang that 86753.
You did?
Song. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh God. I wish somebody had a bootleg of that. That was a good talk. I really enjoyed that. Lots of overlap between the way Chris and I think about approaching guitar and music related to tribute stuff and cover stuff. Man, thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it. We're part of the Ruinous Media Network. Check us out there. Check us out at chrisandricktalkguitars.com and on our social media, jazzy stuff. Shoot us a note, man, and let us know you're out there. We'd love it. All right. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.